How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? It is Wednesday, and you know that every Wednesday I rotate between a series of your Bulls hot takes or your would you rather scenarios. And in this week's video, we're going to be featuring your hot takes from this week. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and feel free to leave your hot takes or your would you rather scenarios in the comments below. And as an example, if you're wondering what I mean by would you rather, it would be something like, would you rather keep Patrick Williams or Kobe White long-term on the Bulls? And to answer that question, it would be Patrick Williams. Kind of an easy choice for me, to be honest. Also, a big congrats to our winner of the tickets giveaway to the Bulls game at the United Center, Alex Ortega. Thanks to all those who messaged me entering, and Alex, I'll work with you on finding a game that you can attend. And don't worry guys, I am still going to be doing a jersey giveaway in the coming days. But anyway, let's get into these hot takes of yours, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Let's get us kicked off with our first hot take, which comes to us from Luis Ortiz. If Lonzo develops a solid mid-range game, at the end of his Bulls career, he will be considered their best all-around point guard of all time. Well, way too soon to be making that kind of take, but I get it. I mean, first off, in Bulls history, we haven't had really that many great point guards from this franchise. Really, you're talking about Derrick Rose, maybe BJ Armstrong, who actually was selected as an all-star one season, but even that is a bit of a stretch. Obviously, Ron Harper was great in the second three-peat years, but you wouldn't call him the greatest point guard in Bulls history. I think the reason I hesitate on this is simply because people sometimes forget just how great Rose was before he got injured. And by making this claim that if Lonzo develops a mid-range game, that he will be the best all-around point guard in Bulls history is essentially putting him ahead of Rose. Now, I do agree that if Lonzo were to add a mid-range game, that what we see today, he would be absolutely deadly on offense just because he's shown to be such a great three-point shooter thus far. And of course, he's an incredible defender. So if you add that mid-range game, he's going to be unstoppable, which is in fact, something that Ball actually has over Rose is the defensive factor. But it's hard for me to envision a world that if Lonzo developed a mid-range game to then still put him above Derrick Rose. Like Lonzo would need to elevate his game considerably to match the former MVP Rose. Next, we've got Dookie Shoes. Vooch will come from this break with renewed fire, put up great numbers, then the Bulls will package Vooch for a more rim-running big man like Christian Wood. Didn't see that take turning in the way that it did, but well, first of all, I certainly hope that this break is going to be good for Vucevic and help him in breaking out of the slump that he's in. And really, I think this is going to be a good break for the whole team. It gives the guys some rest, recharge, have the guys clear protocol, but to have Vooch come back and start putting up great numbers, all but to trade him for a guy like Christian Wood, which I know, you said a guy like Christian Wood doesn't necessarily have to be Wood, but if Vooch comes back and starts playing like the Vooch of last season at an all-star level, you're not going to trade him, especially not for a guy like Christian Wood. And I like Wood a lot. I think Wood would be an amazing fit on this roster at the 4, but not for Vucevic, especially if he's playing like an all-star. Like if Vooch does in fact come back to form and the Bulls do look to move him, you can get considerably more for him and a better package for a better player in return. Next, we've got No Why. The Bulls should not trade Patrick Williams. I understand the allure of going all in for these next couple seasons, but his actual potential is as high or higher than anybody on the team now. So I agree with the first part of your take that the Bulls should absolutely not trade Patrick Williams unless they're able to get a significant piece for him in return, because I really don't like how quickly some people are to give up on young players. Like people were calling for Joakim Noah to be traded or waived after his first 2 seasons, and then of course he finally started taking off in his 3rd season and went to become a multiple all-star and defensive player of the year. Like some players just take more time to develop than others before they break out. And trading Patrick could be a huge mistake in the long run, especially if whatever all-in, move-in pieces were to happen from that if they don't pan out. Now, where I disagree is where you think Patrick's potential is as high or higher than anybody on this team. I mean, I know a lot of people like to make the Kawhi Leonard comparisons, and sure, to an extent, I can see that, but it's a huge stretch when comparing an unproven 2-year player to one of the best players in the league. Do I think Patrick Williams has a ton of potential? Absolutely. Do I think it's higher than anyone on this team, as in higher than Lavine or DeRozan? No, I wouldn't go that far, but I hope I'm wrong in that regard. Next up, we've got 5 feet Demi. All right. DeRozan will go down as a top 5 Bull of all time. Wow. I mean, it's a pretty bold statement. I can't say it's completely unfounded. I think we can all agree that Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Derrick Rose are the top 3 Bulls players of all time. From there, you have guys like Jimmy Butler, Dennis Rodman, Horace Grant, Joakim Noah. If you want to go way back, you could even include Artis Gilmore, Jerry Sloan. Does Luol Deng crack that list as well? And then, of course, you also have Zach LaVine if you're looking at current players. Like, it's pretty tough company for DeRozan to pass. Part of it is because he's not going to have played that many seasons with the Bulls when all is said and done, like some of these other guys. For me personally, I would say, likely still put Rodman and Jimmy Butler ahead, and even Joakim Noah because of how long he played with the Bulls and the all-time stat numbers that he's been able to put up for the franchise. So not sure I can agree that DeRozan will go down as a top 5 Bull of all time, unless, of course, he continues to play the way that he has been and doing it for multiple seasons and leading the Bulls to deep playoff runs. Next, we've got Shizno. Shizno, my guy, I know how to say it now. You can now change your username back. But anyway, the take is the COVID outbreak is a blessing in disguise. Vooch can shoot himself out of a slump. Kobe can increase his trade value by getting starter minutes, and getting live virus antibodies will make the team far less likely to have an outbreak like this the rest of the season. It's funny because I think it was Vucevic who tweeted about the Bulls now having herd immunity after all these guys were testing positive. And honestly, it's a valid point. Like, the fact that all of these guys are testing positive now means that later on in the season and into the postseason, they'll have the antibodies to not get COVID. And you don't have to worry about a player entering the health and safety protocol as a result and throwing off the team chemistry. And I completely agree. As I've said earlier, now that the league has finally postponed some of these Bulls games, and it sounds like they may even postpone the game on Sunday against the Lakers with a fair amount of Laker players entering the protocol. But I think this break is actually going to be great for all of the players to finally get some rest, as the Bulls have had one of the most compacted schedules in the league so far this season. So to have a full week off, if not more, allows for guys like Vucevic and Kobe, who have been slumping a bit, to get back into rhythm. Guys like Lavine, DeRozan, Ball, who have been playing a lot of minutes, to take a long break. Once guys start clearing protocol, they'll be able to start coming back into the facility and start working out together, continue building that team chemistry, come back refreshed, energized, and ready to go. It's essentially like getting another all-star break for guys to recharge, which is so key in a long 82-game season that can lead to injuries and fatigue towards the end of the season leading up to the playoffs. So yes, the outbreak on the team has been unfortunate because we did lose some games that we may have otherwise won had we been fully healthy. And of course, you're likely going to see the team still be shorthanded when the games start picking up again, given Lavine and Derrick Jones Jr. enter the protocol later than the other guys. But still, every guy getting 10 plus days rest is going to be a benefit for this team in the long run over the course of the season. Next, we've got Joel Wilbrick. The Bulls will struggle halfway or 3/4 of the way through the season if they don't get another strong 4 or 5 in a trade or free agency. Well, I mean, what has been impressive with this Bulls team is how well they have still been able to play, despite not really having a true 4, being shorthanded in the front court and having to go small on most nights. But you're right, I do think it will eventually catch up to them, and they can't possibly expect to make a deep run in the playoffs and to be a contending team without another big man. Now, I do fully expect the front office to make a move either at the deadline or shortly thereafter by going after a buyout candidate. That being said, I don't think it's going to be for a big name that I know most Bulls fans, including myself, are wanting. Guys like Miles Turner, Christian Wood, Jeremy Grant, etc. I think it'll likely be a lesser player, and part of that is just because the Bulls don't have the trade chips to get one of these bigger names, and really just having this be a more temporary solution, a 1-year rental on an expiring contract or a vet minimum deal, really just to get through the season while Patrick Williams is out, to get us to the offseason where more moves, transactions, cap space maneuvering can happen. A player like Kevin Love, Robert Covington, Tristan Thompson, even Marvin Bagley, who is set to become a restricted free agent. I've actually talked about the possibility of the Bulls landing some of these players in past videos where I discussed top buyout candidates for the Bulls or trade options, but I think that's going to be the more likely scenario for the Bulls as the season goes on. Let's do one more, and this one comes to us from Peter. Lonzo and Caruso will make the all-defensive team. So I had actually asked a poll question on the community tab yesterday after my dedicated video on Lonzo Ball, which if you guys missed the video, be sure to check it out. But I had asked if you guys thought that Lonzo would be making an all-defensive team, especially with some of the league numbers and key defensive metrics that he's been putting up right now, especially being also one of the best defensive players in the league. And I was a little surprised by the numbers, although I know most of the people who watch are Bulls fans, so I also get the bias factor. But with over 2,500 votes, 93% of you felt that Lonzo Ball will in fact make an all-defensive team. Now, for me personally, I will say there is a stronger likelihood of Alex Caruso making an all-defensive team over Lonzo, just because as good as Lonzo's defensive numbers have been, Caruso's are even better, and he's doing it playing less minutes on the court. I don't think either player will make an all-defensive first team, just because you're talking about being a top 5 defender in the league, which is very hard to come by. But second team, honestly, there's a good chance that at least one of them will get selected, if not both, with their tenacity on the defensive end. And it certainly helps when your team is winning, because you have more attention and eyeballs on you for your effort if it translates to wins for your team. So as long as the Bulls can keep winning, and as long as both Lonzo and Caruso keep putting up the defensive intensity that they have been, I don't see why they couldn't make an all-defensive team this year. I'll end it there for this week though, guys. Apologies if I wasn't able to get to your take with a lot of hot takes that came through this past week. Don't forget to leave your hot takes or your would you rather scenarios below in the comments. And guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.